Hi, I'm David Goforth with the Cooperative Extension Successful Gardener. Today in early August at my house, I picked 10 different types of fruit fresh from the growing around my home. They are the raspberry, the strawberry, the fig, the muscadine, the blueberry, bunch grape, pear, peach, apple, and a specialty melon that I grow. These can all obviously be grown here in Cabarrus County, but some of them make more sense to grow around your home than others. Let me describe the ones I think make the most sense for you. We'll start off with the blueberry. This is the blueberry bushes here. They're along the edge of my yard, what we call a border shrub. These will have beautiful blooms on them in the spring of the year. They'll have the red foliage on them in the fall of the year, which matches with my yellowish colored maple trees up above. At this time, we've picked about $250 worth of these blueberries off, sold a lot of it on the farmer's market, and put a lot of it into the freezer. So I think it's very useful. One of the things I like, and all these plants I'm going to be telling you about that I think you should plant, do not require pesticides. The blueberries, there's no reason in the world to spray it here in Cabarrus County. A lot of people think blueberries are hard, and one of the things that has made it hard is the types they sell in some of these big box stores. They will sell a high bush blueberry. Yes, a high bush blueberry is very hard to grow in Cabarrus County, but this is a rabbit eye. It gets the name from the fruit. When it's in the pink stage like that, it will remind people of a rabbit's eye, and so it's got the collective name rabbit eye for this type of one here. This is Tiff Blue, actually an old standard. We've also got Premier in the planting. You probably need to plant a couple of them, but they don't take much room. You can see these here are spaced a little over 5 foot apart. So an area where you've got about 5 foot, you can plug one of these into your yard, along with things also in this other border here. We've got some forsythia and some mock orange just for looks. And we've got a witch hazel, which again, mostly just for the blooms on it. And then this, and we've got maybe a sweet bubby also in this particular hedge here. So just a mixture of different things. We've got these plugged in, and we will pick off of them and use these year round. One of the things I really love to do during the winter is to take these out of the freezer and mix in a little bit of sugar and a little bit of milk, and basically have a blueberries and milk type dessert that I will eat pretty much year round. So an excellent plant that I think you should have in your landscape. The second plant I think makes a lot of sense in an urban landscape is the muscadine vine. This one, like the blueberry, is very high in antioxidants. It is also does not require any pesticide application whatsoever. There are a few diseases that bother it, so you find some pesticides labeled for it, but there's really no reason to spray for a fairly good crop here in Cabarrus County. It's a fairly reliable plant, and unlike the blueberries, which are just finishing up, the muscadines are just getting started. We normally start picking around the 8th of August, and we have picked on into November for a 3-month harvest period on these type of muscadines that we've got here. And I think if a person would choose the varieties, you might be able to go a little bit wider than that. There's a wide variety, number of varieties that are available for this. So the main thing you want to make sure is you don't get one that has got winter injury. Supreme makes one of the better muscadine varieties to try, and certainly would recommend trying that one if you try anything. The other problem on muscadines is it takes a little bit of a trellis to build them. Here I've got some post with a cross post up here, and obviously it's decent enough to work on that. There's different trellises that a person can buy and build for these grapes, but it does require a trellis to get production from them. So a little bit of a disadvantage there, but still a very good plant for the urban landscape. These here, we will eat them fresh, of course. You've got about a 3-month window that you can eat them fresh. We will put some in the refrigerator to carry on a little bit beyond that some years when we've got a good year. We can also make juice out of these. And the other thing you can do is you can save the grapes. You have to separate them and then you have to cook them, but you can put them either in the freezer, you can can them so that you can make a grape pie. And I've heard people say that grape pies are about as good as damson pies, which puts it in very good company indeed. So again, another very useful plant here. The third plant I would really encourage you to consider is the fig. The fig is actually a semi-tropical plant. It's not a native plant here to Cabarrus County, but certain varieties does very well. This is Celeste right here, and I would encourage a person to choose Celeste to use. The fig will start getting ripe. We've got a few ripe ones on here today. They will get ripe during hot weather and will continue on for another month or so, on into early September. Whenever it turns cold, the figs will quit producing at that time. Figs are mainly eaten fresh. You will eat them, or you can put them into the freezer. Generally like to freeze them individually, and then you can take out just a few to eat either with a smoothie or to eat by themselves as they are, as a semi-frozen state. You can make jams and preserves out of figs also, and you can dry figs. Figs are very good dried. So a number of uses for figs. Again, a very useful plant and one that's easy to grow in the home landscape. I want to go on and mention a few other plants that may not make quite as much sense, but you might consider them in an urban landscape. So far we've talked about 3 plants that make a lot of sense in our landscapes here in Cabarrus County. Those are the blueberries, the muscadines, and the figs. There's some other plants that are fairly good, maybe not quite that valuable, but very useful plants. And I want to mention those. The persimmon, the oriental persimmon, is grown in Cabarrus County. I've seen some people have very good results with it. It's still a little bit green now, wouldn't be ripe until the November time frame. It's a valuable plant, very tasty plant, but the trouble with it is winter injury. It's not as reliable as some of our other plants. A lot of years, anything below 10 degrees when it's weak will take out the oriental persimmon. It's also fairly expensive to buy the initial plants. So may not be as valuable as the blueberries, figs, and muscadines, but it's something to consider. Another one you might consider is the plum. Plums have already ripened this year. They come on early, sometime in the May into June time frame, and they're a little bit messy. Some years it's even helpful to have a pesticide application to control the brown rot on them. It's not totally necessary, but some years you'll lose quite a bit if you don't. So not as reliable as some of the ones we've already mentioned. And then there's some that I'm not familiar with, such as the pomegranate. I've seen people grow pomegranates around, and some people have had success with them, some people have not. They are a semi-tropical plant, so they're not real well adapted to Cabarrus County, but yet you can get production on them. If you decide to experiment with some pomegranates, make sure you don't get one that is strictly ornamental. There are some strictly ornamental ones. It does have a beautiful bloom, but you need to get one that is for production if that's what you're interested in doing. You might be interested in why I haven't mentioned apples. Apples obviously will grow in Cabarrus County, but they don't color up near as pretty as the ones in the grocery store, which, again, you don't necessarily have to have a beautiful looking apple to eat. But the other trouble is, to really get a good quality apple, it does require more pest control than anything I've mentioned so far. So the pest control, and also there's some summer diseases that do give us a problem here in Cabarrus County. This tree right here is a gala, which I think may be one of the better ones for commercial production here in Cabarrus County if a person was going to try that. But they are a little bit more difficult to take care of than anything that I've mentioned so far. Now, pears are not quite as difficult to take care of, but you really can't grow the quality of pears. We've got a tree here that we mainly use it for canning. Use it to peel. You can eat them fresh, but they don't have quite the quality of some of the pears that you can get in the grocery store. And another one that I'll mention is the peach tree. Peach is obviously growing here in Cabarrus County. We've been picking peaches for about 7 weeks now. This is one of our later varieties that is ripening here now. However, peaches require a very strict pest control problem, and I think a little bit more than what you'd want to do in the average landscape. You'll also notice that today I picked bunch grapes. The bunch grapes are just getting ripe. Normally they get ripe in July. I'm not sure why. They're a little bit late this year, but they are ripening now. Bunch grapes, I'm not as excited about growing them. They're a little bit harder to grow, and some years you'll have a little bit more disease. On the bunch grapes, you probably do not want to try the seedless varieties. You probably want to try a seeded variety. There's one called Sunbelt from the University of Arkansas, and there's others. The Catawba, the Fredonia, and the Niagara are bunch grapes that we recommend for this area. All of them are seeded, and all of them a little bit more difficult to grow than, say, the Muscadine grape. We're not sure of the cultivar name on this one. It was sold as a Niagara, but obviously it's not because it's the color. But it's done fairly well for us here in Cabarrus County. Also today I picked a strawberry, believe it or not. This is one of the experimental day neutral varieties I've been trying, called Seascape. I'm not sure what I think about Seascape yet, but it is a little bit unusual to have strawberries during August. It is one of those that produce year after year. I need to know a little bit more about strawberries before I recommend them, but it's something that you might want to try to grow in a landscape or in a basket or in a window box, something like that. Seascape is a variety that I'm experimenting with. I'm not sure that it's the best variety or not. The raspberry here is one known as Caroline, and it's a little bit early for them to get ripe. Again, I'm not sure the details on that, but what I try to do there is the primocane culture. You want to get a raspberry that's primocane culture, and again, we're so warm here for raspberries that it's not a good choice for Cabarrus County. As you can see, there's a number of fruit that we can grow here in Cabarrus County, but again, I think the ones that make the most sense for the average homeowner are the blueberries, the muscadines, and the figs. If you've got any questions about growing these fruit, give me a call at the office. And until next time, plan and plant for a better world.